Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another DADCAW. It is, of course, the 18th of March, 2021. And it is, of course, just about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So if I had started this video 2 minutes later, I could have said it was 3. But it'll be 3 at some point in the middle of this video's recording, so you at least have that to fall back on. As you can see by the title of this video, we're going to be talking about the Crowpill series. The most recent Crowpill that I released was obviously in response to the Diablo 2 Resurrected announcement, which was yet another low-effort cash grab remaster of an older game that people have some nostalgia for. I want to talk about more than just that. I obviously want to have more Crowpill installments. The main issue that I'm seeing is that all of the things that I'm currently very passionate about, that I have some things to talk about, require a little bit more additional research. For example, I have a future video planned in the Crowpill series where I talk about how Valve doesn't care about their products. But the one hole in my current argumentation as I've constructed it is Portal 2, because I've never played that game. And Portal 2 would in theory be, all the fanboys seem to attest to this anyway, the complete kryptonite to that argument that Valve never bothers to really make a stand and say, let's really look into how we can make a high quality product out of an interesting novel concept. Where Portal 1 is obviously just an experiment. Portal 2 is supposed to be the version of that game that is actually good, where they just take the concept from the first game and they flesh it out a little bit more, and then they execute on an idea instead of just having an idea. And while I doubt that that's actually the case for this game, because I haven't played it, I can't speak to it. And until I actually play that on the channel, ideally it would be a recorded playthrough anyway, that would be something where then I can make a statement about it. Then I can obviously have my own standalone Portal 2 review or whatever. And then from there on after, I can figure out exactly what I think about the game and how it slots into the oeuvre of Valve. So given that I don't really know exactly how to construct the argument to be nearly as strong without that research being done, that video's obviously just been delayed a little bit. And I think that's one of the main reasons why you haven't seen too many Crowpill videos out there, is just because I don't want them to be kind of throwaway pieces of content, which is where I started to get into when I was doing them daily for the first incarnation of the series. Whereas as you saw from watching the Diablo 2 one, where I think the title is Blizzard Has Learned Nothing, that video obviously is a lot better in terms of its construction. I'm looking into the camera more, my camera presence is much better, I'm framed correctly, all that stuff. But on top of all that, I know what I'm saying, and I don't necessarily have nearly as many stutters, or it's not nearly as off the cuff as it usually is, even though I didn't script that by any means, but I wrote down my main points in some bullet points. I started to think about some of the arguments a little bit. Maybe that's when you take some time to almost meditate on the subject. Like maybe that's, you think about how you would frame those arguments and while you're taking a shower or something like that. Those are all elements of the process that led into creating that video, and that's one of the main reasons why that video was as well put together, in my opinion, as it was. Certainly the best Crowpill video that I've produced, and I want to produce more. I want to produce more that are even higher quality, and of course that is going to require more practice. But until I find a topic where I can sit down and kind of passionately figure out what really irritates me about stuff, that is something that I think will continue to halt any Crowpill production. It's not to say that I won't have one later on this month, maybe, or even like in a week, something very, very quickly. It really depends on what kind of topics I get myself to think about. And obviously, lately, I've just been busy with other things. But I did want to talk a little bit about how that series comes together, what the process behind the scenes of putting together a Crowpill video even looks like, which, as I said, is shifted from something where I just have the topic and I put that in the video title and the obviously the overlay and stuff. It shifted from that to also thinking about how to construct the arguments and how I'm going to frame them and what are my bullet points, and maybe really internalizing them, and then because I don't want to look at them while I'm delivering the video for camera presence reasons. So all of that is another reason to just sit there and say, hey, we've got to actually put some effort into this sort of production. And it has become a little bit higher effort in that respect. Really, DADCAW is the only series that is the lowest effort, you could say, in terms of the barrier between pushing the record button and actually having a worthwhile video, because I really just have to sit down after plopping in whatever the video topic is, and voila, I'm done. Essentially, I just rattle off some words about it. And even in these, I am trying to be better with camera presence and being better with knowing, roughly speaking, what my off-the-cuff bullet points are going to be. even if I don't necessarily write them down to the same degree, even though that's not necessarily an expectation of the series. So all of these things are pointing to higher quality content, but as with anything, higher quality content can't always be very frequent. I am still looking for ways to improve the frequency of my output, but I don't think the Crowpill series is going to be like a weekly installment or whatever. I suppose I could just pay more attention to gaming news, and maybe then I would have more things to react about. But ultimately, I want to make sure that the reason the video exists is obvious when you listen to it, even if you haven't necessarily been catching up with the story. And that's one of the reasons why I think the Diablo 2 one was so impactful and successful, because you didn't have to be familiar with the fact that Diablo 2 Resurrected was announced. I kind of go over it in the video itself, but I talk about why, just by virtue of being aware of other remasters from even other games or other game developers, let alone Blizzard themselves, the fact that those have existed in the space is enough for you to realize why this is a cynical cash grab, and why you yourself should be a little cynical about the motivations of developers making remasters going forward. In some ways, it was actually a sequel or a successor to the game, the remasters or lazy cash grabs Crowpill. I think the second one that I made, or something along those lines, because it lays out the argument against a low quality remaster. It lays out the argument for a high quality one, and it also gives you a sort of legend almost to compare to reality, and then say, oh well, if these criteria are met, it's either a low or high quality remaster in these aspects. At the very least, it's a lot better in terms of how it's put together, and it's also a lot more information dense, where I don't waste my time sort of repeating myself over and over again, or maybe talking about some tangents that don't necessarily feed back into the main point of the video, and in essence just feel like a bit of a diatribe. So ultimately, I do feel like that video is the future of the Crowpill series, but it also did require a specific event that I happened to be knowledgeable of to hit the news, and for me to feel somewhat passionate about a response to it. So either I need to just wait for more of those to come up, or I need to get more well known and informed within the space of whatever news is actually a little bit more current, so that I can more realistically and more frequently produce videos of that caliber for that series. So I will be on the lookout for similar news stories, but I certainly am not going to turn the series into just reacting to the news. I think it's at its best when you can not only react to a specific news story, an announcement of a game or a remaster in this case, and obviously give your take on it and explain, set the stage, so to speak. But also, if you can tie it back to some other point, more broadly speaking, about the industry, I think that's where you can see the real potential in the Crowpill series. And that's what I want to make sure I'm pushing for in every single video that comes out in that series. So hopefully that made sense to you. And that will be the end of this video as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, keep on the lookout for news stories that you think should be covered by the Crowpill series. Feel free to comment them or send them to me on Discord or whatever. And of course, maybe there's just some that you share in the server for the sake of getting other members' discussions on that, getting their takes on it. And that may spur me on to say, hey, maybe I could make a video about this, and I have something to say about this, and a way to tie it back. So it could just be a matter of being exposed to these news stories that facilitates additional content that isn't, again, a compromise on the quality just to become a reactionary games social commentary person or whatever. That's not really where I want to go with the series, obviously. But if you have some stories that you at least want some opinions on, you can, of course, share them in the server. Maybe that obviously propagates additional content thereon and thereafter. So there you go.